Hello and welcome to another episode of Dover Plays Kerbal Space Program. So following on from our Mun Satellite, we're going to try and take this contract for the high Kerban orbital satellite. First thing though, we're actually at the maximum number of contracts, so consider deleting one there, but instead we can afford to upgrade mission control, which will allow us to have unlimited number of accepted contracts. So now we can go in and accept this contract. So in order to get this specific orbit around Kerbin, we will just use the same ship we used last time for the Moon orbital mission. It's probably going to be kind of over the top unnecessary. A lot of extra fuel in it that we don't necessarily need, but it's better to be over prepared than under prepared. So all we're going to do here is change the we'll change the name to the Kerbal orbiter and Control Z to get those fuel tanks back on. So yeah, this is overkill, and it's not exactly fuel efficient or cost effective, but it will do the job. Okay, now on to the launch. So we will find out our orbit is the one we're aiming is pretty damn high up, and it's also a polar orbit. So from the launch pad, we kind of want to wait until we are lined up with that orbit before we launch, so that we need to do minimal adjustments after launch. So that looks good enough, and we should be able to launch from here. So the first stage is just a big boost off the ground, and we're going to be going for a pretty high orbit with this, so I don't do a turn quite as soon as normally would, and we're also turning full north rather than the 90 degrees that we would normally do as well. Something went slightly wrong there. I didn't quite catch where it was. So I shall go ahead and speed up the next section of launch, just so that we get up there and get to the interesting part. So you can see I'm pushing slightly away from north just to try and get the prograde vector on the nav ball to come and meet me at the north, and there we have it. Now that's a bit better. So now we will go for a flatter incline and try and get a circularized orbit. We're looking good. We've not made the mistake of that we did with the Moon orbiter and gone for the wrong direction of orbit. So we're looking good now. We just need to circularize and get ourselves up high enough. So this stage has now run out of fuel, So we're going to wait until we get up towards our apoapsis before we dump off this stage, and then use our fuel tank that was, I think, from the last mission. It was the transfer fuel stage, but we seem to have used a lot more fuel coming up this time. Like I said, we had loads of extra fuel in the tank, so we weren't quite so worried about wasting any or getting the most efficient orbit. So we'll eject that now, use a bit of RCS just to boost away from it before we hit the actual throttle. And this will get us, we just need to have a low throttle. We're just going to circularize the orbit here. And then once we've got a circularized orbit, now I'm kind of a bit more aware of how much fuel we've got. We will be a bit more careful about pushing the altitude up. So there we have a nice circularized orbit. So now what we'll do is we will warp to the apoapsis and kind of ping pong on our apoapsis, boosting each time, just to gradually get the altitude up. We'll get our scanner out on the go as well at the same time, just to get some extra data. So here we go, just pushing out, swapping around, pushing the apoapsis just a bit further out, and then we'll warp round to the other side, and then we'll push out, periapsis, switch them around again, and we're just going to kind of bounce back and forth doing this until we get our orbit higher up. Because we've got a long way to go, and we do need to kind of keep an eye on the amount of fuel that we've got. And we also don't want to throw it too far off in one direction, because then we'll just have to come back the other side. So here we are now, we're getting close to our desired orbit. Just going to try and get the apoapsis here as close as possible to our target altitude on that side. And I'm going to do a couple of maneuvers here just to try and see if we can line it up a bit better. That's closer, but you see, we just trying to adjust it slightly so that we're on the exact desired orbit path. I tried to maneuver more node here, but it didn't really help. So we'll warp over to the other side, and then push out the periapsis and see how good it lines up. Okay, so that looks good enough, right? Contracts, we'll just check the contract here, see if we've missed anything out. And no, while we were checking, the contract has been satisfied, so there we have it. Met our high Kerban orbit satellite objective. But now we have a satellite up here which doesn't really have a purpose, so we packed the scanner. What we're going to do is we're going to bring it back down to a height where we can actually use the scanner. So burnt out the fuel in the transfer stage and dumped it, so now we are just in our satellite mode. I'm trying to get this down to below 500,000 kilometers orbit, and we're very close to that now, but we are running out of fuel. In fact, we have almost completely run out of fuel here. And that is us. We have now run out of fuel. So we're just going to use, there was a tiny bit of fuel left there, but we're just going to use the RCS. RCS is enough at this altitude to make sufficient changes to bring us down below 500,000. So now the scanner should start picking up Kerbin and start making readings. We'll check all the other science equipment here, and we should be able to start getting a scan. Okay, so our science experiments weren't any use, but we are now scanning. So what we're going to do is put on time warp as fast as we can and start scanning Kerbin. And you can see now our graph has some decent imagery showing up. Not quite completed the whole scan there. And we can check here, we can check the data. So you can see that the data is not quite complete yet, because those bars will be full once it is. Don't lose any for transmitting it though, so we shall do that. And what we can also do is, in fact, we will go back to the tracking center. We shall go and see our Mun Satellite from the last mission, because it also had the surface scanner on it, and you can see it in the time that we've been doing this mission. It has scanned the entire surface of the moon. So we shall check this out, and we shall transfer that data home for a whopping load of science. Thank you very much. And we shall use that science in the next episode. I'm not quite sure what we will use it for, but there shall definitely be some unlocking of new tech and possibly some further exploration. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next episode.